Hana stood at the front of her classroom and looked at the small faces staring back at her. Some were human. Some were not. The Galaxy Station Education Center was proud of being the first school in space where many different species learned together. Children from 12 different worlds sat in her biology class. She loved teaching. Every day brought new questions and new challenges. Human children were curious, but alien children were even more curious. They wanted to know everything about humans, and humans wanted to know everything about them. Today's lesson was about life cycles. Hana showed pictures of different animals from Earth. She explained how butterflies changed from caterpillars. She showed how frogs started as tiny eggs in water. The students watched with wide eyes. In the back row sat Kiro. He was a Veltari, one of the apex predator species from the Outer Rim. The Veltari looked like big cats that walked on two legs. They had fur that changed colors with their moods. Kiro's fur was silver today, which meant he was thinking hard. Kiro was only 7 years old in human years. He was the youngest student in the class. But he was smart. Very smart. Sometimes too smart for his own good. Hana finished explaining about tadpoles becoming frogs. She smiled at the class. Does anyone have questions? Several hands went up. She pointed at a human girl named Gina. Teacher Hana, do all animals lay eggs? Gina asked. Good question, Hana said. No, not all animals lay eggs. Some animals, like humans and Veltari, grow babies inside their bodies. Kiro's ears perked up. His fur rippled with interest, turning slightly blue. He raised his small paw high in the air. Yes, Kiro, Hana said. The young Veltari stood up, as was custom in his culture when asking important questions. His tail swished behind him. Teacher Hana, where do babies come from? The room went silent. The other alien students looked at each other. The human children waited for the answer. They had learned this, in their families, already. Hana paused. She knew this was a sensitive topic for many species. But she was human. Humans believed in honest answers. Her training as a teacher told her to be truthful, but age-appropriate. That's a very good question, Kiro, she said calmly. Sit down, and I'll explain. Kiro sat, his eyes bright with curiosity. Hana pulled up a simple diagram on the screen. It showed basic biology. Nothing graphic, just educational drawings. For mammals like humans and Veltari, babies grow inside the mother's body. There's a special place called a womb, where the baby is safe and can grow. She pointed to the diagram. The mother and father both contribute something special. From the father comes a tiny cell called sperm. From the mother comes a cell called an egg. When these two cells meet, they join together. That's called fertilization. Then the combined cell starts growing into a baby. The human students nodded. They had heard this before. But the alien students leaned forward. This was new information. Information that their own parents never shared. Kiro raised his paw again. How does the baby get out? When the baby is ready, after many months of growing, the mother's body helps push the baby out. Hana explained simply. It's hard work, but it's natural. Mothers are very strong. Does it hurt? Asked another student, a Veltari girl named Nala. It can be uncomfortable, Hana admitted. But doctors and medical staff help make it easier. And when mothers see their babies for the first time, they say it's worth it. Kiro's fur turned bright yellow with excitement. So my mother did this? For me? Yes, Hana said warmly. Your mother carried you and brought you into the world. All mothers do this for their children. Why didn't anyone tell me this before? Kiro asked. Hana chose her words carefully. Different cultures share this information at different times. Some wait until children are older, but humans believe that if you're old enough to ask the question, you're old enough to hear a simple, truthful answer. She looked around the classroom. This is basic biology. It's how life continues. There's nothing scary or wrong about it. It's actually quite beautiful. The class continued with more questions. Hana answered each one honestly, but simply. She talked about how pregnancy lasted 9 months for humans, longer for some species, shorter for others. She explained that families came in all types. Some had mothers and fathers. Some had 2 mothers or 2 fathers. Some had 1 parent. Love made a family, not just biology. By the end of class, Kiro was bouncing with excitement. His fur cycled through rainbow colors. I can't wait to tell mother and father what I learned today. Hana smiled. But something in her stomach felt uneasy. She hoped Kiro's parents would understand. Human parents expected their children to learn these things in school, but she wasn't sure about Veltari parents. The students filed out of the classroom. Kiro ran out with his friends, chattering excitedly about wombs and cells and babies. Hana sat at her desk and made notes for tomorrow's lesson. She had taught biology for 3 years at the station. She always tried to be respectful of different cultures, but she also believed in education, in knowledge, in truth. Her communication device buzzed. It was a message from Yuna, the station director. Hana, please come to my office after classes end today. We need to talk. Hana's heart sank. That was never a good sign. She finished her afternoon classes, but her mind kept wandering. Had she made a mistake? Should she have asked permission before teaching that lesson? But it was basic biology. How could basic science be wrong? When the last student left, Hana walked slowly to the director's office. The corridors of the station were bright and clean. Through the windows, she could see stars and distant planets. This station was supposed to be a place of learning and understanding between species. She pressed the button outside Yuna's office. The door slid open. Inside, Yuna sat behind her desk. She was a human woman, older than Hana, with kind eyes but a worried expression. Standing next to the desk were 2 tall Veltari. They wore formal robes with family symbols. Their fur was dark, almost black, rippling with shades of red. Red meant anger. Hana, Yuna said quietly. These are Commander Thelos and Scholar Vera. They're Kiro's parents. They want to talk about what you taught their son today. Hana swallowed hard. She looked at the 2 Veltari. They stared back at her with eyes that held the ancient power of apex predators. Hello, Hana said, trying to keep her voice steady. I'm Hana, Kiro's biology teacher. Commander Thelos stepped forward. His voice was deep and cold. You told our son where babies come from. Yes, Hana said. He asked a question. I answered it honestly. Honestly? Scholar Vera's voice was sharp. You violated our most sacred tradition. You spoke of things that are forbidden to young ones. You have committed a great offense against our family and our entire species. Hana felt her hands shaking, but she lifted her chin and met their eyes. She had told the truth. She had done nothing wrong. I taught biology, she said firmly. I taught science. I taught facts. You taught blasphemy, Commander Thelos growled. The meeting had just begun, and Hana realized she was in serious trouble. Yuna stood up from behind her desk. She was a small human woman compared to the 2 massive Veltari, but she held herself with authority. Please, let's all sit down and discuss this calmly. Commander Thelos didn't move. His tail lashed behind him like an angry whip. There is nothing to discuss. This human broke our laws. We're not on Veltar Prime, Yuna said gently. We're on Galaxy Station. Here, we follow station regulations, which respect all cultures, but also promote education. Scholar Vira's fur rippled with purple and red patterns. Purple meant distress mixed with anger. Director Yuna, you don't understand. What she taught our son is forbidden knowledge. In our culture, children learn about reproduction only during the ceremony of awakening, when they reach maturity at age 15. Hana found her voice. I didn't know that. I apologize if I caused offense. But Kiro asked me a direct question. I'm a teacher. I gave him a truthful answer. Wall. Truthful? Commander Thelos turned his full attention to Hana. His eyes were golden and fierce. Truth is not always appropriate. Some truths are too heavy for young minds. With respect, Commander, I disagree, Hana said. Her fear was fading, replaced by conviction. Children are smarter than we think. And basic biology isn't a heavy truth. It's just science. Just science? Scholar Vera stepped closer. Creation is sacred. Life is sacred. These are mysteries that connect us to the divine. By explaining them as mere biology, you strip away their meaning. You make them common and dirty. Hana shook her head. I don't think knowledge makes things dirty. I think understanding makes things more beautiful. When I learned where babies came from, I didn't think it was gross. I thought it was amazing. I was in awe of what mothers could do. You are human, Commander Thelos said. Humans see things differently. Too differently. You have no respect for mystery. No respect for tradition. Yuna held up her hand. Please, everyone. I understand both perspectives. Hana, you should have checked the cultural database before teaching that lesson. It clearly states that Veltari have restrictions on reproductive education. Hana felt heat rise to her cheeks. I did check the database. It said Veltari children should be taught with sensitivity. I was sensitive. I kept everything age-appropriate and scientific. Sensitivity means not teaching it at all. Scholar Vera's voice rose. Our son came home today asking questions we're not prepared to answer. He wants to know details. He wants to understand processes. He's 7 years old. He should be playing with friends and learning mathematics, not thinking about wombs and cells. Why not both? Hana asked. Why can't he learn math and biology? Why must one topic be forbidden? Commander Thelos bared his teeth slightly. It was a Veltari sign of extreme displeasure. Because we say so. We are his parents. We decide what he learns, and when. I respect that, Hana said. But he's also a student at this station. The station has educational standards. Biology is part of the curriculum. Then perhaps he shouldn't be a student here, Scholar Vera said coldly. Silence fell over the room. Yuna looked shocked. You would withdraw Kiro from the school? We will do what's necessary to protect our son's innocence, Commander Thelos said. Hana felt a pang in her chest. Kiro was a bright, wonderful student. He loved learning. Pulling him out of school would hurt him. Please don't punish Kiro for my mistake. If I offended you, then I'm sorry. But don't take away his education. Compliment Texans. His education? Scholar Vera laughed bitterly. You call this education? Teaching children about things they're not ready for? Humans have no boundaries. You tell your children everything. You show them everything. You treat them like small adults instead of protecting their childhood. We treat them like capable people, Hana replied. Because they are. Human children who learn about their bodies early are healthier. They're safer. They can recognize when something is wrong. They can ask for help when they need it. Or they lose their sense of wonder, Commander Thelos countered. They become cynical. They stop seeing magic in the world. Knowledge doesn't kill wonder, Hana said passionately. It creates it. When I learned how stars form, I didn't stop thinking stars were beautiful. I thought they were more beautiful because I understood the incredible process that made them. The same with life. Understanding how babies develop doesn't make birth less miraculous. It makes it more miraculous. Scholar Vera shook her head. You don't understand. In Veltari culture, there are stages. Childhood is for innocence and play. Adolescence is for learning and preparation. Adulthood is for full knowledge and responsibility. You've disrupted these stages for our son. Maybe the stages are artificial, Hana said quietly. Maybe children are ready for knowledge when they ask for it. Commander Thelos took a threatening step forward. You dare criticize our culture? Yuna moved between them. Hana, that's enough. Commander, please. Let's remember, we're all on the same side. We all want what's best for the children. Do we? Scholar Vera asked. Because it seems humans want something very different than we do. Yuna took a deep breath. Let me propose a solution. Hana will issue a formal apology to your family. We'll add a note to the cultural database, making it absolutely clear that Veltari students should be excluded from reproductive biology lessons until they're older. Hana's stomach dropped. Exclude students? That felt wrong. But she could see Yuna was trying to keep the peace. And what about the knowledge Kiro already has? Scholar Vera demanded. How do we erase what he learned? You can't erase knowledge, Hana said softly. Once someone knows something, they know it. Exactly, Commander Thelos roared. Which is why what you did is unforgivable. Then what do you want? Yuna asked tiredly. What would satisfy you? The two Veltari looked at each other. Some silent communication passed between them. Finally, Scholar Vera spoke. We want her removed from teaching our son. We want assurance this will never happen again with any Veltari child. And we want a formal complaint filed with the Interspecies Education Board. Hana felt like she'd been slapped. A formal complaint could ruin her career. She might never teach again. That seems extreme, Yuna said carefully. No, Commander Thelos said. That seems appropriate. Our entire community is disturbed by this. Other Veltari parents are watching how this is handled. If there are no consequences, they'll lose faith in this station. Yuna rubbed her temples. Give me 24 hours. Let me review the policies and consult with the station board. We'll have a proper hearing tomorrow. Very well, Scholar Vera said. But until then, Kiro will not attend classes. We're keeping him home. I understand, Yuna said. The two Veltari turned and walked out of the office. Their tails were held high, a sign of dominance and displeasure. When they were gone, Hana collapsed into a chair. I just answered a question. Yuna sighed. I know, but you knew Veltari were conservative. You should have been more careful. I was careful, Hana protested. I didn't show anything graphic. I used simple terms. I treated the topic with respect. But you still taught it, Yuna said. And that's the problem. Not how you taught it, but that you taught it at all. Hana felt tears prickling her eyes. So what? We just lie to students when they ask questions? We tell them to wait until they're older? That's not education. That's gatekeeping. Sometimes gatekeeping is necessary, Yuna said. Not all cultures are ready for all information at all times. But Kiro was ready, Hana insisted. He asked. He wanted to know. And he understood when I explained it. Ready or not. His parents weren't ready, Yuna said. And parents have rights too. Hana stood up. Now you go home, Yuna said. Tomorrow we have a hearing. Prepare your defense. Bring evidence that what you taught was appropriate. We'll present both sides to the station board, and they'll decide. And if they decide against me, Yuna looked sad. Then you might lose your job, or at least you won't be allowed to teach Veltari students anymore. Hana walked out of the office feeling numb. She had come to Galaxy Station full of hope. She wanted to teach children from different worlds. She wanted to build bridges between species. Instead, she might have started a war over something as simple as telling the truth. Hana didn't sleep well that night. She kept replaying the meeting in her mind. She thought about Kiro's excited face when he learned something new. She thought about Commander Thelos's angry eyes. She wondered if she had really done something wrong. At 3 a.m, she gave up on sleep. She sat at her desk and started preparing. If there was going to be a hearing, she would come ready with facts. She pulled up studies from Earth, research papers about childhood education, statistics about health outcomes, data about emotional development. The more she read, the more confident she felt. Human children who received age-appropriate sex education early were safer. They had fewer teen pregnancies. They were less likely to be abused because they knew what was normal and what wasn't. They grew into adults with healthier attitudes about their bodies. Knowledge was power. Knowledge was protection. How could that be wrong? She compiled everything into a presentation. Charts, graphs, expert quotes. By the time the sun rose over the station, she was ready. The hearing was scheduled for 10 in the morning. Hana arrived early. The conference room was large and formal. A long table sat at the front, where the station board members would sit. Chairs were arranged for witnesses and observers. Yuna was already there, reviewing documents. "As ready as I can be," Hana said. "Remember, stay calm. Don't get emotional. Stick to facts and policy." "I will," Hana promised. More people began arriving. The station board consisted of 5 members, each from a different species. There was Minho, a human administrator; Tarla, a Bravaxian with blue skin and multiple arms; Grixol, a crystalline being from the core worlds; Senna, a tall, amphibious Quellan; and finally, Ambassador Rikov, a Veltari elder. Hana's heart sank when she saw Rikov. Of course there would be a Veltari on the board. This wouldn't be a fair hearing. Rikov, Commander Thelos and Scholar Vera entered with their lawyer, another Veltari named Vexar. They sat on one side of the room. Hana sat on the other. Minho called the hearing to order. "We're here to address a complaint filed by Commander Thelos and Scholar Vera against Teacher Hana regarding educational content shared with their son, Kiro. Commander, you may present your case." Commander Thelos stood. He spoke with the authority of someone used to being obeyed. "My son is 7 years old. He came home from school yesterday, asking questions about reproduction. He used words like sperm, egg, and womb. He wanted to know details about how babies are made." End quote. He paused for effect. This teacher decided, without consulting us or checking our cultural guidelines, to teach him this forbidden knowledge. She violated our traditions. She disrespected our family. She has damaged our son's innocence. Scholar Vera stood next. In Veltari culture, children are shielded from this knowledge until they undergo the ceremony of awakening at age 15. This is not negotiable. This is who we are. By teaching our son prematurely, she has disrupted his natural development. Their lawyer, Vexar, added, "We request that Teacher Hana be removed from any position where she could teach Veltari children. We also request a formal apology and changes to the curriculum to prevent this from happening again." Minho nodded. "Thank you. Teacher Hana, you may respond." Hana stood. Her legs felt shaky, but her voice was steady. "Thank you. I want to start by saying I never intended to cause offense. However, I stand by what I taught." She pulled up her presentation on the screen. "Kiro asked me a direct question in biology class. The question was, where do babies come from? As a teacher, I had 3 choices. 1, I could lie. 2, I could refuse to answer. 3, I could tell the truth in an age-appropriate way." She clicked to the next slide. "Humans believe that education empowers children. We have centuries of research proving this. Children who learn about their bodies and reproduction early have better outcomes in multiple areas." She showed the statistics. Lower rates of abuse. Better mental health. Healthier relationships as adults. Fewer health problems because they sought medical care when needed. "This isn't about being disrespectful," Hana continued. "This is about giving children tools to understand themselves and the world." Kiro didn't ask about something inappropriate. He asked about basic biology. How life begins. That's a fundamental question. Quote, Ambassador Rikov leaned forward. "But our culture sees this knowledge as sacred. You treat it as common science. It's both." Hana said, "Science doesn't make something less sacred. It makes it more wonderful. Understanding how a baby develops from 2 tiny cells into a whole person is incredible. It's miraculous. The fact that we can explain it scientifically doesn't make it less amazing. You're missing the point, Vexar said. It's not about whether the information is true or useful. It's about timing. Parents have the right to decide when their children learn certain things. I agree parents have rights, Hana said. But children have rights too. The right to ask questions. The right to receive honest answers. The right to learn. Honest eventual. She clicked to another slide. Let me tell you a story. On Earth, a long time ago, adults didn't teach children about their bodies. They thought it was improper. They thought children were too innocent to know. Do you know what happened? She paused. Children got hurt. They didn't know what was normal and what was abuse. They didn't know how to protect themselves. They suffered because adults decided ignorance was somehow protective. That's different, Scholar Vera protested. Is it? Hana challenged. You're saying children can't handle information. You're saying knowledge is dangerous. But history shows us that ignorance is much more dangerous. Tarla, the Bravaxian board member, spoke up. Teacher Hana, I appreciate your passion. But you must understand that not all species view childhood the same way. Veltari children develop differently than human children. Do they? Hana asked. Because Kiro seemed perfectly capable of understanding. He asked intelligent follow-up questions. He processed the information maturely. He was excited to learn something new. Gen. He's confused, Commander Thelos said. He doesn't understand the significance of what you told him. With respect, Commander, he understands exactly as much as he needs to at his age, Hana said. I didn't teach him everything. I taught him the basics, just enough to answer his question. That's good teaching. Minho held up his hand. Let's hear from Ambassador Rykov. As a Veltari elder, what's your perspective? Rykov stood slowly. He was older than Thelos and Vera, his fur silver with age. This is difficult for me. I see both sides. Teacher Hana is correct that knowledge is valuable, but Commander Thelos is also correct that our traditions matter. He looked at Hana. Young human, you come from a culture that values openness. This is admirable, but you must understand that Veltari survived for thousands of years with our way of teaching. Our children don't suffer from lack of early knowledge. They thrive under our system. Do they, though? Hana asked quietly. Rykov's fur rippled with interest. What do you mean? I mean that your system works because it's all they know, Hana explained. But that doesn't make it the best system. Humans used to have all kinds of traditions that we thought were necessary. We changed them when we found better ways. You suggest we abandon our culture? No, Hana said. I suggest you examine whether your culture's rules still serve their original purpose. What are you protecting children from? Knowledge isn't dangerous. It's not harmful. It's neutral. What we do with knowledge can be good or bad, but the knowledge itself is just information. She looked directly at Ambassador Rykov. You say Veltari children thrive. I believe you. But couldn't they thrive even more with more information? With more understanding? With the freedom to ask questions and get real answers? Scholar Vera stood abruptly. This is outrageous. She's suggesting we change thousands of years of tradition because of her human beliefs. I'm suggesting you think about why the tradition exists, Hana said calmly. Every rule has a reason. But sometimes, the reason becomes outdated. Sometimes we keep rules just because they're familiar, not because they're helpful. Minho called for order. Let's stay focused. The question before us is simple. Did Teacher Hana violate station policy by teaching reproductive biology to a Veltari student? Yuna stood. If I may, Director Minho, I've reviewed the station policies thoroughly. They state that teachers should be sensitive to cultural differences. They don't explicitly forbid teaching any particular subject to any particular species. The cultural database lists Veltari restrictions. Vexar argued. It lists preferences, Yuna corrected. It says to teach with sensitivity. Teacher Hana did teach with sensitivity. She used age-appropriate language. She kept the information clinical and educational. She didn't show graphic images. She followed good teaching practices. But she still taught it, Commander Thelos roared. That's the violation. Is it a violation to answer a student's question? Hana asked. Because if so, then I don't know how to be a teacher. My job is to educate. Education means answering questions. Senna, the Quellan board member, spoke in her melodious voice. I find myself sympathetic to Teacher Hana. In my culture, we also value openness with young ones. Hiding knowledge seems counterproductive. Grixol, the crystalline being, chimed in with a voice like ringing bells. Yet we must respect diversity. Not all paths are the same. The board members began discussing among themselves. Hana sat down, her heart pounding. She had said her piece. Now, it was out of her hands. Ambassador Rykov stood again. I request a recess. I would like to investigate this human approach more thoroughly before we make a decision. Minho looked surprised. How long do you need? 3 days, Rykov said. I want to review these studies Teacher Hana mentioned. I want to consult with human educators. I want to understand this philosophy fully. Before judging it, Commander Thelos looked shocked. Ambassador? Surely. 3 days, Rykov repeated firmly. This is too important to rush. Ambassador Rykov sat in his quarters that evening, surrounded by human research papers. His assistant, a young Veltari named Suho, brought him another cup of hot tea. Ambassador, you've been reading for 6 hours, Suho said with concern. You should rest. I can't, Rykov said, his eyes fixed on the screen. Everything I thought I knew is being challenged. He had started by reading the studies Hana mentioned. Research about childhood sex education. But that led him to other studies. About how humans taught children about death. About failure. About difficult emotions. Humans didn't shield their children from hard truths. They didn't pretend the world was perfect. They told children that people died. That sometimes bad things happened. That life wasn't always fair. And somehow, this brutal honesty created strong adults. Suho, did you know that human children as young as 5 learn about death? Rykov asked. That seems cruel, Suho replied. That's what I thought, Rykov said. But look at this study. Human children who learn about death early handle loss better as adults. They're less traumatized. They understand that death is natural, not a punishment or a mystery. He pulled up another document. And look at this. Humans teach their children that failure is acceptable. They encourage children to try difficult things and fail. They celebrate effort, not just success. Why would they celebrate failure? Suho asked, confused. Because failure means learning, Rykov said slowly. Veltari children are taught to succeed always. We punish failure, we view it as shameful. But humans see failure as a teacher. He stood and paced. His fur rippled with purple, the color of deep thought. I need to see this for myself. I need to observe how human children actually behave with all this knowledge. Onrex. I need to see. Onrex. I need to see. Onrex. The next morning, Rykov visited the human section of the station. He had arranged to observe a human elementary class. The teacher was a man named Jinwoo, who had taught on Earth before coming to the station. Welcome, Ambassador, Jinwoo said warmly. Please, sit in the back. Feel free to observe anything. Rykov watched as Jinwoo taught a class of 8-year-olds. The lesson was about space exploration, but it wasn't triumphant. Jinwoo talked about failures too. The first Mars mission failed, Jinwoo explained. The ship crashed. Everyone on board died. It was a tragedy. And the children listened solemnly. One girl raised her hand. Did we give up? No, Jinwoo said. We learned from what went wrong. We built better ships. We tried again. That's what humans do. We fail. We learn. We try again. After class, Rykov approached Jinwoo. You teach them about tragedy? About death? Of course, Jinwoo said. It's part of history. But they're so young, Rykov protested. They're smart enough to handle it, Jinwoo said. And honestly, they deal with death in their own lives already. If we don't give them frameworks to understand it, they'll be more confused and scared. Don't they have nightmares? Rykov asked. Jinwoo smiled. Sometimes. Then we talk about the nightmares. We help them process their feelings. We don't pretend scary things don't exist. We teach them how to cope with scary things. Rykov felt his world tilting. This is so different from our way. Different isn't bad, Jinwoo said. Just different. That afternoon, Rykov visited the station's counseling center. He spoke with Nari, a human psychologist. I'm trying to understand this human approach to childhood, he explained. You don't shield children from any truth? We shield them from harm, Nari corrected. But we don't shield them from reality. There's a difference. Explain, Rykov said. Shielding from harm means protecting children from abuse, from exploitation, from things that could hurt them, Nari said. Shielding from reality means pretending difficult things don't exist. The first is necessary. The second is harmful. Why is it harmful? Rykov asked. Because reality exists whether we acknowledge it or not, Nari explained. A child whose pet dies will grieve whether or not we told them death was possible. But a child who already knows about death has words for their feelings. They have context. They can process the loss better. She pulled up case files on her screen. I treat children from many species here. The ones who struggle most are those from cultures that hide difficult truths. They encounter something hard, and they have no framework for it. They think something is wrong with them for having difficult feelings. And human children? Rykov asked. They struggle too, Nari admitted. Life is hard for everyone, but they have tools to cope. They know that feeling sad is normal, that being scared is okay, that asking for help is smart, not weak. Rykov thought about Veltari children. They were taught to be strong always, to never show weakness. How many suffered in silence because they thought their struggles meant they were failing? What about the reproduction topic specifically? He asked. The one that started this controversy. Nari leaned back. That's interesting because it's actually one of the less controversial topics for humans. Basic biology education starts young. Age-appropriate. Of course. But we've found that children who understand their bodies are safer. Safer how? They can recognize inappropriate touch, Nari said carefully. They know what's normal and what's not. They can tell a trusted adult if something feels wrong. Knowledge protects them. Rykov felt cold. You mean from abuse? Yes, Nari said. Predators rely on children's ignorance. Children who don't have words for body parts can't describe what happened to them. Children who don't know what's appropriate can't identify when something is wrong. But surely Veltari children, Rykov started, are vulnerable too, Nari finished gently. Every species has individuals who harm children. Secrecy and ignorance make it easier for abusers. Rykov left the counseling center feeling shaken. He had never thought about it that way. On the second day, he observed more. He watched human parents talk to their children. He saw a father explain to his daughter that her goldfish had died. Where did Bubbles go? The little girl asked, tears streaming down her face. Bubbles died, sweetheart, the father said gently. All living things die eventually. It's part of life. Will I die too? The girl asked. Someday, when you're very, very old, the father said. But not for a long, long time. Will you die? The girl whispered. Eventually, the father said. But I'm healthy, and I plan to be around for many years. And even when I do die someday, the love I have for you will always be real. Love doesn't die, the girl cried. But she nodded. She understood. She was sad, but not confused. She knew what was happening. Rykov compared this to how Veltari handled death with children. They would say the goldfish went away, or went to sleep. They would avoid the word death. They thought it protected children, but the human child, even in her sadness, had clarity. She knew the truth. She could grieve properly. On the third day, Rykov requested a meeting with Kiro. Commander Thelos was reluctant, but agreed. Kiro came to Rykov's office with his parents. The young cub's fur was nervous gray. "Kiro, I want to ask you some questions," Rykov said kindly. "About what teacher Hana taught you." "Am I in trouble?" Kiro asked. "No," Rykov assured him. "I just want to understand how you felt about the lesson." "I liked it," Kiro said honestly. "I learned something new." "Were you scared by what you learned?" Rykov asked. Kiro looked confused. "Did the information upset you?" Rykov pressed. "No," Kiro said. "It was interesting. I always wondered where babies came from. Now I know. It makes sense. Do you wish you didn't know?" Rykov asked. Kiro thought about this. "No. I like knowing things. It's better than not knowing. When I didn't know, I made up stories in my head. Some of them were weird. Now I know the real answer. And it's actually cooler than my stories." Commander Thelos looked uncomfortable. "Kiro, you don't have to answer these questions. But I want to," Kiro said. He turned back to Rykov. "I asked Teacher Hana other questions too. About cells and development. She said when babies are first growing, they're tiny, smaller than a grain of rice. Then they get bigger and bigger until they're ready to be born. That's amazing." His fur turned bright yellow with excitement. "And she said, that's how I was born. Mother carried me, and I grew inside her. That's why mothers are special. They do this hard thing to bring new life. I told Mother thank you for doing that for me." Rykov glanced at Scholar Vera. She looked stunned. "You thanked me?" "Yes," Kiro said simply. "Teacher, Hana said being pregnant is hard work. You did hard work for me. So thank you." After Kiro left with his parents, Rykov sat alone in his office. He thought about everything he had learned over 3 days. Humans didn't protect childhood innocence by hiding truth. They protected it by preparing children for reality. They gave children tools to understand the world. And somehow, this created resilient, capable young people. He thought about Veltari children. Sheltered, protected, kept ignorant of difficult things. And when they finally encountered those difficult things, they were unprepared. How many Veltari struggled as adults because they had never learned to handle failure? How many grieved poorly because they had never learned about death? How many stayed in bad situations because they had never learned they could ask for help? Rykov realized something profound. Humans didn't see childhood as a bubble to protect. They saw it as a foundation to build. Every piece of knowledge was a brick. Every honest conversation was mortar. They were constructing strong adults, not preserving fragile children. The question wasn't whether Hana was right to teach what she taught. The question was whether the Veltari were wrong to forbid it. The hearing resumed on the 4th day. The conference room was packed. Word had spread through the station about the controversy. Parents from multiple species wanted to see how it would be resolved. Hana sat in the same chair as before. She had spent the last 3 days in limbo, not knowing if she still had a job. She had prepared more arguments, more evidence, but she wasn't sure it would matter. Commander Thelos and Scholar Vera sat across from her, their faces unreadable. But Hana noticed something different. Kiro sat between them, which surprised her. Children usually weren't allowed at formal hearings. The board members took their seats. Minho called the session to order. "Ambassador Rykov has completed his investigation," Minho announced. "Ambassador, please share your findings." Rykov stood. His silver fur gleamed under the lights. He looked older somehow, as if the last 3 days had aged him. "I have spent 72 hours immersed in human educational philosophy," he began. I observed human classes. I interviewed human teachers, counselors, and parents. I reviewed decades of research. And I spoke with young Kiro about his experience. He paused. What I found has deeply challenged my understanding of childhood and education. The room was completely silent. Humans do not shield their children from truth, Rykov continued. They teach children about death, failure, and difficult emotions from a young age. This seemed wrong to me at first, cruel, even. But I learned something important. Shielding children from reality does not protect them. It leaves them unprepared. This. Tensed, end quote. Commander Thelos shifted in his seat. Scholar Vera's fur rippled with confusion. Human children who learn about bodies and reproduction early are safer, Rykov said. They can identify inappropriate behavior. They can ask for help when something is wrong. Knowledge protects them from predators who rely on ignorance and shame. He looked directly at Hana. Teacher Hana did not harm young Kiro. She empowered him. She gave him accurate information in response to his question. This is what good teachers do. Hana felt tears prick her eyes, but she held them back. However, Rykov continued, and Hana's heart sank. I also understand the position of Commander Thelos and Scholar Vera. They are following traditions that have existed for thousands of years. They believed they were protecting their son. He turned to address the whole room. This conflict is not about right and wrong. It is about different philosophies of childhood. And I believe both sides have something valuable to offer. Minho leaned forward. What are you suggesting, Ambassador? I am suggesting that we allow families to choose, Rykov said. Parents who wish to follow traditional Veltari practices can opt their children out of certain lessons. But parents who wish to try the human approach should be allowed to do so. Murmurs rippled through the room. That's not our way, Scholar Vera said. Veltari children follow Veltari traditions. Why? Rykov asked gently. Why must all Veltari follow the same path? Humans have different approaches within their own culture. Some human families are more conservative, some more open. They allow diversity. He walked toward Thelos and Vera. I understand your fear. You think knowledge will harm your son. But I spoke with Kiro. He is not harmed. He is not confused. He is grateful. Grateful? Thelos asked. He thanked his mother for carrying him, Rykov said. Vera's fur turned soft pink. The color of surprise mixed with emotion. He did thank me. I thought he was just being polite. He was being sincere, Rykov said. Children are smarter than we give them credit for. They can handle truth. What they cannot handle is confusion and secrecy. He returned to the front of the room. I propose the following. Teacher Hana should not be punished. She violated no written policy. She answered a student's question with accurate, age-appropriate information. This is her job. However, he continued, we should update our policies. Parents should be notified before sensitive topics are taught. They should have the option to opt their children out. But we should also educate parents about the benefits of early education. Minho looked at the other board members. What does the board think? Tarla spoke first. I agree with Ambassador Rykov. Choice seems fair. Senna nodded. Families should decide what's best for their own children, Grixel chimed in. Knowledge is light. Darkness cannot persist when light is present. Minho turned to his fellow human board member. I support this proposal. Teacher Hana acted appropriately, but we should have better communication with families. Then it's decided, Minho announced. Teacher Hana is cleared of wrongdoing. The policy will be updated to require parental notification before sensitive topics, and we will provide educational materials about the benefits of age-appropriate sex education. Hana felt relief wash over her. She hadn't lost her job, but Commander Thelos stood. This is unacceptable. You're telling us our traditions are wrong. No, Rykov said firmly. We're telling you they're optional. If you want to raise Kiro in the traditional way, you may. But you cannot force all Veltari families to do the same. We are the elders of our community, Vera protested. And elders should guide, not control, Rykov said. Other Veltari families might choose differently. You must allow them that freedom. Kiro suddenly stood up. His small voice cut through the tension. Father, Mother, I have a question. Everyone turned to look at him. If knowing things is bad, Kiro said slowly, then why do you send me to school? School is all about knowing things. Why is math okay to know but not biology? Thelos opened his mouth, then closed it. He had no answer. I like learning, Kiro continued. I like understanding the world. Teacher Hana didn't tell me anything scary. She told me something beautiful. How life begins. How I began. I don't want to stop learning just because something is a tradition. Vera knelt down to her son's level. Kiro, we were trying to protect you. From what? Kiro asked innocently. From knowing how much you loved me before I was even born? From knowing how hard you worked to bring me into the world? It makes me love you more. Vera's fur turned deep blue, the color of profound emotion. She pulled her son into a hug. Thelos watched them. His fur cycled through colors, red fading to purple, purple to blue. Finally, he spoke. Perhaps we were protecting ourselves. Not him. What do you mean? We wanted to keep him small, Thelos admitted. Keep him innocent. Keep him ours. We were afraid that if he knew too much, he would grow up too fast. We would lose our baby. But he's growing up anyway, Rykov said gently. You can't stop that. The question is whether you grow with him or cling to who he was. Vera looked up at Hana. You really believe this knowledge helps him? I do, Hana said. Knowledge is a gift. It helps children understand themselves and the world. It makes them safer and stronger. And you would teach all these things? Vera asked. About failure and death and all the hard parts of life? When age appropriate, yes, Hana said. Not to hurt them, to prepare them. Life has hard parts. Pretending it doesn't makes them harder. Thelos sat down heavily. This is not what I expected when we came to this station. Change rarely is, Rykov said. But change can be good. Over the next week, something remarkable happened. The controversy sparked discussions across the station. Veltari parents gathered to debate the issue. Some agreed with Thelos and Vera's traditional stance. But many others were curious about the human approach. A group of younger Veltari parents approached Hana. Would you be willing to teach a class for parents? A mother named Duri asked. We want to understand this philosophy better. Duri. Understand. We want to understand this philosophy better, Hana agreed. She held workshops explaining age-appropriate education. She showed the research. She answered questions. Some parents remained skeptical, but many were intrigued. One father named Taeyang said, I wish someone had taught me about failure when I was young. I spent my whole life afraid to make mistakes. Maybe my son doesn't have to live that way. Kiro returned to Hana's class. But now, Vera and Thelos came with him once a week. They observed. They learned. They slowly began to understand. One day, Kiro asked another question. Teacher Hana, why do people die? Before Hana could answer, Thelos spoke up. That's a good question, son. Teacher Hana, please tell him the truth. Hana smiled. All living things die eventually. It's part of the cycle of life. We're born, we grow, we live, and eventually our bodies stop working. It's natural. Are you scared to die? Kiro asked her. Sometimes, Hana admitted. But mostly I'm focused on living well while I'm alive. Death makes life precious. If we lived forever, nothing would feel special. Kiro thought about this. So I should enjoy now? Exactly, Hana said. Enjoy learning. Enjoy your family. Enjoy being alive. After class, Thelos approached Hana. Thank you, he said simply. For what? Hana asked. For treating my son like he's capable of understanding the world, Thelos said. For not underestimating him. He's a brilliant child, Hana said. He was always capable. He just needed someone to trust him with the truth. Months passed. The controversy faded into memory, but its effects rippled outward. The Veltari Council debated educational reforms. Ambassador Rykov presented the research Hana had shared. The debate was fierce. Traditionalists argued for preserving the old ways. Progressives argued for adopting some human practices. Eventually, a compromise was reached. Veltari families would have choices. Schools would offer both traditional and progressive tracks. Parents could decide what was best for their children. It wasn't a revolution, but it was a start. Hana continued teaching. She had students from many species now. Each brought their own questions, their own curiosity, their own desire to understand. And whenever a student asked a difficult question, Hana remembered Kiro. She remembered how a simple, honest answer had started a movement. She thought about what humans had learned over centuries. That children were capable. That knowledge was protective. That truth, delivered with love and care, never harmed anyone. Other species were starting to learn this too. One evening, Hana received a message from Ambassador Rykov. I thought you should know. It read, the Veltari Council has officially recognized age-appropriate sex education as beneficial. 300 schools on Veltar Prime are implementing new curricula based on human research. You started something important, Hana smiled. She hadn't set out to change an entire culture. She had just answered a child's question. But sometimes, that's all it takes. One question. One honest answer. One person willing to tell the truth. She looked out her window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Veltari children were asking questions and getting real answers. Human children were growing up with knowledge and understanding. And somewhere in between, different species were learning from each other. The universe was vast and diverse. But one thing was becoming clear across all species and cultures. Truth never harmed those ready to hear it. And children, it turned out, were always ready. They just needed adults brave enough to trust them with honest answers.